Welcome to the Ravenswood City School District Regular Board Meeting of February 9th, 2023. I'm going to go ahead and call us to order. And I will start with roll call. So Trustee Alexander. Here. Trustee Shabomahin. Here. Trustee Latu.
Present.
Vice President Nunez.
Here.
And I myself am present. Quorum is present. We will go ahead and move to the next item, which is the approval of the agenda. We are going to pull item 9. So I will take a motion to approve the agenda, taking out item 9.
Through the chair, I move to approve the agenda with the deduction of item 9.
I'll second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. We will go ahead and move to the next item, which is the Los Robles Ronald McNair Academy presentation. And so this is Principal Alex.
Yes, we have Principal Alex Quezada, who is representing his school site, Los Robles Ronald Academy.
All right. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for having me. Good evening. The presentation that you will see tonight will really just be a collection of photos and videos. When I first heard about this opportunity, I really wrestled with how to do this, right? And how to do this well. So how do I bring the vibe of Los Robles here? And I struggled with that. I think really the best thing to do is to come to our site, right? Come to our meetings, especially our parent workshops, those kinds of events. I think you can really get a good sense of the kind of community that we have in Los Robles, which I think is very reflective of the community that we have here in East Palo Alto. So that being the challenge, this was the best that I can do in terms of like trying to bring that sense of our community to you. So there's our courtyard on a beautiful evening. I'll kind of just talk a little bit about all the grades as well as what we do. Feel free to stop me anytime. I'm quite comfortable with interruptions. And so we can definitely have a little, exchange in terms of ideas and what you see. And if you have any questions or concerns, bring it up. Obviously, we're a dual language immersion school. We're a 90-10 model, very common model. Our idea is to, and the goal of our school is to have bilingual and biliterate students. We are constantly checking our assumptions in terms of language proficiency. So whether we're looking at reclassification rates or whether we're looking at language proficiency in both English and Spanish, we're constantly checking that. Like, are we doing what we said we are going to do? Which is to have bilingual and biliterate students by the time our students go to middle school. And so that's definitely always on the front burner. Transitional kindergarten is new to us this year. And so, of course, we talked a little bit about, how we're going to do it. Are we going to do English? Are we going to do Spanish? Are we going to, stick to our model? So we are doing our transitional kinder class in Spanish. And so we're following our 90-10 model. But we're also incredibly flexible with students whose native language is not Spanish, right? So we have some native English speakers, for example, and then we have some bilingual students in there as well that speak both. And so we're constantly flowing between the two languages, but definitely emphasizing Spanish as the foundational language for literacy and everything else. Play, right? That's what our little ones need. They need a lot of social and emotional opportunities and experiences, and that's what we work on. Show you a little clip. That's our TK class.
Ok, aquí cambiamos. ¿Qué tal vos? ¿Hacemos vos? ¿No? Muy bien, Luna. Ahora son tres. Ahora vamos a hacer mejor. Tres. 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 Tres.
So you'll notice he's speaking mostly in English, right? But I'm talking to him mostly in Spanish. And so that's a really good example. What we do with these, like obviously we take the videos not just for fun, but we unpack these at parent meetings and parent workshops. So there's a lot of me, and these are all kind of off the cuff, right? I don't really plan these. It's whatever they're doing at the time. And then I try to capture it. And part of what we do at our parent workshops is I explain what I'm thinking. Why did I ask? Right. So he said no the first time. And it's like, this is how I responded to him not wanting to do this activity. And that's a dialogue that we have with parents. And that's the idea. It's just, this is what we do at school. These are strategies that you can try at home. And you'll see something very similar with the next video.
Uno.
So again, they're not planned, they're not scripted. And so part of what we try to do is show parents and kind of just share what I was thinking, what kind of goes through my mind when that happened. And then try to kind of explain what would happen next. And again, this is a TK class. So all they're doing is playing. And all I'm kind of do is just expose them to some of the academic work that'll get them ready. I will say this until I'm blue in the face. A big part of what's going to bring success, not just to our school, but to our community, I think is kinder readiness. And this is a really good way of just doing that. We are helping our children before they even step foot into a kinder class to have a lot of these experiences. The balancing, that's an algebraic experience. We're balancing an equation. We're trying to see what these numbers do. The counting experience, even though Yelitza was a little reluctant at first, she then started predicting what the next number would be, right? And so that was part of, and then the engagement part is part of it too. Anyway, we can talk about these videos forever. We won't. All right. Going. Like other schools, we're working on developing good readers and writers. We are always trying to find ways and opportunities to engage our students to love reading, to really enjoy the process of reading, the experience of reading, as well as writing, not just the mechanical part, but also the joy. And that's something we really work on. We want it to look like this at the end of the day. Couple of students hanging out during recess. Again, just this is what they chose to do. Bring out a notebook and start writing, or bring out a book and just start reading on a random day. And that's great. That's what we want to see. We really want to see that intrinsic love of reading and writing. It's our same approach to math, very hands-on, very conceptual, balance that with a lot of procedural fluency. I think so, but it's timed up. Or we can skip it. log this out. While they're doing that, as I'm as I'm kind of working through these videos and kind of working through these photos, you'll see a lot of what's going on is in the classroom or on the school campus. And there are a lot of people that are involved in that. They may not be reflected in the videos. So obviously we work with several partners. This year, there are three partners that really stand out. Boys and Girls Club, Cassie, as well as Playworks. Cassie and Playworks mostly because of their social and emotional support. It's what we've kind of needed at this time and we'll probably continue to need for years on end. Really just giving our kids as many points possible to interact with adults that can guide, that can support our students, especially as they're having difficulty adjusting or transitioning between activities, or just handling social and emotional experiences. Boys and Girls Club, of course, has been doing our after school program for the last couple of years. But it's not just, the group that takes care of our kids in the after school program. There's quite a bit of dialogue between the two groups. And so it's really an extension of what we do during the day and then try to keep that seamless as much as possible. It's difficult just because of the long day, but we're trying to keep that consistent throughout the afternoon because then it carries over to the next day. And so part of that challenge is keeping that dialogue open. But they've been instrumental partners with us. This looks like a math video. Should I play it or do you want to play it? You guys mind playing it? Because I don't know if it's going to. Just a couple of examples of the way we approach math at Los Robes, which is using it really as a tool to understand the world around us, right? And so in this particular case, you have a couple of students really trying to use math to solve problems and using tools to then solve that problem. And so these are typical examples that you would find. A quick tour through our science curriculum as well. Obviously hands-on as much as possible, working outdoors, trying to spend some time among nature, pulling radishes out of our garden bed, for example, was quite the experience for Isai. And this is what it might look like on a typical day. So just some examples of what would happen in a typical science activity or science experience. Really giving students a sense of a lot of the scientific phenomena and then having a chance to have a conversation about it. Also a little bit of music. These are just typical music experiences. Our goal really is to have our students learn how to read music. The idea is that by the time they get to middle school, they'll have these experiences so that they can choose whatever instrument they want to play and feel incredibly confident and comfortable saying, I can read music notes, I can play that instrument. And that's the goal here, and give them as many experiences to do so. And a little bit about our art and makerspace program at Ms. Robles. Yep. I dropped down Dean, but nevertheless, it's still there. And we also like to have a little fun every now and again. So whenever the kids need a brain break, we might do something like this. One of the advantages of having flexible seating is that you can move the tables to the side whenever you need to and make a little bit of room for some dancing. So that's just a little bit of work in terms of our content and academic area. A couple of things that I want to talk about, Los Robles, and it stems from this saying: compassion, curiosity, and creativity. It's something that I took from Elena Aguilar, who was a well-published author, coach, in education and beyond. And the idea that we use here is basically that this is how we treat our students. Anytime we have a student who's going through a hard time, could be that they need a break. It could be that they're just not engaged that particular day. We always start with the idea that one, that student is trying to communicate something. So that behavior is communication. Two, the first hat we put on, or the first lens we use, is compassion, to try to understand why we're seeing what we're seeing. And then curious about it. Like, so why are we seeing that? And then creative in the way that we solve it. So we tend to solve and approach problems in a very hands-on, on-the-fly approach. Things don't really get put off for later. If a student's having a hard day or a tough moment, we don't send them to a place. We don't refer them to the office. We deal with it right there and then. And it can be from any of the adults. And the idea is to find a way to get the student to either self-regulate, de-escalate, talk about what's going on, and then get that student back engaged in the school day or in the school moment. So how do we do that? Sometimes we just need to go out to the garden and do a little work. So we might need to do a little bit of shoveling. We might need to take a hammer and work a little bit on working on our garden and setting, that foundation for what was going to be some vegetables that were going to grow there. Again, back out in the garden. That is you. That's what's been working for us, is really giving students a sense of ownership, having a say in what flowers we're going to get planted in our pollinator garden, and then working with them on maintaining those, giving students a chance to plant in our different garden beds when that's what their body is telling them they need to do. A lot of maintenance of our landscape, right? So maybe, a couple of our students will spend some time filling in some of those gaps in our tan bark, or they got to do a little bit of mulching there. They love doing that sort of stuff. And not only that, it gets them back engaged into whatever disrupted them for that moment. Sometimes it's just going out there and watering plants. But at the end of the day, what this does is it gives the students a sense of ownership at the site. It's their space. And so they can navigate that space in a number of different ways, so that when they're not having their best moment, they can find a way to get back into the group. And the idea is then to get them back into the class and continue learning. If we had to hang our hat on something, I think this is where we can probably say this is something that we're really, really proud of. Our essential habits of success. It's something that we've been hammering over and over and over again, not just in school, but also with our parents, especially during our parent workshop. And that's basically what we're doing. And there's a lot to unpack there in each of those categories, but those are the categories that we're working on. So we often get the question from parents and families, what can we do at home to support what you're doing at school? And so this is where we land. These are the things we want to see. So unpacking those videos from the beginning, Lucas trying to do a little bit of algebra, Yelisa doing a little bit of counting, that's all in here. And we highlight those. We have been using Kiwi crates at our parent workshops. We bust out the Kiwi crates. The kids love them. And then we make connections to which part of the habits we should work on for that day. It's become a community of practice for parents. And while parents can do this at home if they wanted to, it's a better environment when friends can work on Kiwi crates together. When, son and dad are working on Kiwi crate together. And we have families at these tables. So they're not only having this experience together, within the family, but they're also now getting to know other families. And that's the community of practice piece, where they're actually sharing strategies with each other, sharing experiences with each other. And the idea is to build this stronger network amongst our families. They'll bring sisters and aunts and whatever. And the other piece of having our parents together is to then give them an opportunity to do a little bit of community service ourselves. So here's an example of our Thanksgiving food drive. What we asked our parents to do was to come in and help us pack food that we then donated to other folks who needed some help. And they were more than happy to come and give us a hand doing that. We've participated in a number of tree plantings here in East Palo Alto, our partnership with Canopy. So anytime they need some folks to come, we raise our hand and say, we can come and we can help you plant trees in our own community. And the idea behind that really just stems from the idea of self-determination, right? Which is what's rooted here in East Palo Alto. The idea that we can depend on ourselves, we can rely on ourselves to do a lot of the things that we need to do, whether it's planting trees or helping our neighbors with food. This will be the last video, I believe. This is one of the evenings where we're making sugar skulls. And this was taken by a parent, so this is not my video.
Esa es de aquí, ¿no? ¿Verdad? Mira cómo está, es mucho más.
That wasn't this last slide. These videos, by the way, are, we don't plan these in advance, really. We're capturing moments as they happen, like, any other family would. We tend to capture these moments, one, because they're moments, they're teachable moments. We either found something interesting, or we found something that we really enjoyed, or we found something that might be an issue we want to work on. And then we look at these ourselves and we look at these internally. And so they're not really made with the intention of like broadcasting or putting out. They're kind of made for us. And what we end up finding is that we end up finding a story here. And that's part of the story that I've been trying to tell tonight, hopefully, is that we're all about, in service, not just to ourselves, but to the community. Right. And so that's part of where that comes from. A while back, I had a really neat conversation with someone who reminded me that it is a privilege to really work here. And that's important to kind of just know and keep in the back of my mind, all of our minds, because we are working in a space, I think, where even though we feel confident in what we're doing, we still need to remain humble. And we need to still remember that there's a lot for us to learn and a lot of ways that we can grow. We also tend to recognize the work of those before us. And so our idea of putting in the work at Los Robles and in the community isn't about dismantling what was there before, but building on what was there before us, redesigning if we need to, if there was something that wasn't working. And of course, just leaving Los Robles better than it was before. And that's always what we're trying to do. So with that, I'll leave it open to you if you have any questions or comments. I'd love to hear them.
Any questions? Okay. Any questions or comments from the board?
The chair. Thank you very much for sharing that. I've always liked visiting Los Robles. It's a very unique school among our schools. The feeling there is very family oriented. And I absolutely loved watching the garden and the whole nature science classroom coming together over the course of the last year. So thank you very much. I think you captured pretty well what Los Robles is all about.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
To the chair, thank you for your presentation. Thank you for the update. Like Trustee Alexander said, there's a warmth there when we visit Los Robles, Ronald McNair. I love the colorfulness. I like the adaptability and what you've been able to create. I think that we had a concept of what we wanted the school to be. And I feel like with you as our leader, you really brought that into fruition, but also made it your own, being directly involved with our families and our young people at that school. And so thank you for the presentation. I'm going to be visiting soon because I love seeing the
Absolutely.
building of the garden. You know me, anytime there's a garden on the school site, I
Yes.
tend to be there.
Come for the garden, stay for the murals. The murals are wrapped up. They're just finished. And that was an important part of also was really capturing one that was Ronald McNair. That was a middle school that is very important to the community. And I wanted to make sure that we captured that. And then we also have some trees because it is Los Robles. So hopefully we were able to kind of get the best of both ideas or images. But yeah, definitely check out the murals. They're done now.
Thank you. I mean, I see you every day at drop off
Yes.
and every other day, I think, for pickup. But thank you for the presentation, and I will echo all of the comments that were already made. And I get to experience it as a parent, and I appreciate it. And I appreciate the leadership from you, Alex, and also all of the staff and teachers. And like you said, making connections with other families and knowing that my kids have connections that are like family there, that they can go to any adult. And I will say that is true. Like the kids really feel like they can go to any adult to say whatever they feel, advocate for whatever they want,
They do.
and have that conversation of what they need for the betterment of themselves, to learn better, to have more time with their friends, to have more time on the big park and not just the little park. So thank you for the presentation. And yes, we're gonna go ahead and move on.
One more. Sorry,
Yeah, sorry.
through the chair. I just want to say that was really nice to see how much it's changed over time. As a McNair graduate myself,
Yes.
I was like keeping an eye out for what with my classroom and the gym and how it's different and how some things are still. Anyway, it was really nice, like going down memory road and my own experiences there. And so it's really nice to learn what's going on over there. And I need to visit. Now I'm jealous.
Yeah,
of all of you.
You're around.
That's-
You're around the
especially when you're-
corner. Yes. Yes.
And so it's really nice to get an insight into what's going on over the.
You can go to the
Gate.
second floor from your building and just
I need
peek
to
out the
go there. I'm on
window.
the first floor. Yes, there we go.
You can
But thank you so much.
You can see us from the second floor. Okay.
Great.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next session, or the next item, which is closed session. If there is anyone here that wants to make comment on anything that we are going to talk about during closed session, now is the time. Did you fill out a card? Sorry, Maria, do you have a card? Can we have you fill it out before, just because that will Thank you.
Thank you.
So sorry, Maria, if you can bring up the card to trustee Latu. And then just in general, every person has 2 minutes to speak on an agenda. item. So thank you.
Thank you. Danny, and yeah, so you have 2 minutes on the floor.
All right. So, hi, thank you so much for letting me speak. I've come today because I have a friend who has worked for the district for 17 years now. She's dedicated her entire life to it. But unfortunately, she was let go not too long ago. And I wanted to just see if I could be an advocate for her in however small way I could be. She was let go after having been injured on the job. She injured her leg, and shortly thereafter, she received a letter recently saying that she had exhausted all of her paid and unpaid leave, and she was placed on a 39-month list to be possible to be reinstated. The condition is that in order for her to be able to return to work, she needs to be approved by a doctor, and then be approved. Then that approval needs to be verified by a district appointed doctor.
Sorry, Danny, I'm gonna pause for really quick because I'll pause your time as well. Superintendent HR, are we allowed to hear matters about personnel? Because of potential litigation, am I correct?
And then also it's talking about individuals' medical conditions, so.
Yeah, so Danny, anytime there is a matter regarding personnel information, like a case, because of the potential of follow-up in any regard, usually the board cannot hear it because we have to remain non-biased, just in case there's a potential for, I don't want to say case, but so from my understanding, HR, am I correct?
I could make it more general.
Yeah.
The requests that I have are far more general. Well, one of them was about her specifically, but the request I can make more general.
Yes,
Sure.
already. I'll play.
So scratch all that. The general request is based on the situation that my friend is dealing with. I was wondering if the district could place additional safeguards in order to protect the employees. My friend's situation isn't unlike other employees' situations where something happens on the job, they're either let go for cause or for other reasons. And I take it that you generally receive a packet or you receive a summarized note saying, this person or this group of people will be let go from the district, just generally, and you are either allowed to sign off or not, right? I have just an additional 30 seconds.
Sorry, the time is 2 minutes, so we do have to cut people off at 2 minutes. But thank you for your comment, and we will listen and hear. So thank you. And you can always email us. Our cards are out on the table. You can email each and every single one of us. Our information is also on the website. So and there you can speak as concise, like as openly as you would want and not as generally as you would have to here.
Okay,
So-
would there be a way to reclaim some time given that what I said was not allowed?
No. So I'm sorry. No. Sorry. But thank you for your comment.
Cool.
Um,
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Also, pleasure seeing
yes.
you all again.
Thank you. So we're going to go ahead and move on to closed session. And we will return to open session when closed session is over. So thank you. Thank you, everyone. We are back from closed session at 9:22 PM. And we are going to start the open session. So we will start with the report of action taken from closed session. So for item number 4A, discussion and action was taken with the vote of 5-0. For action 4B, there was discussion and action was taken, vote 5-0. For item C1, there was discussion, and item C2, there was discussion. So now we will move on to from the floor. So if is anyone who would like to comment on any items that are not agendized, now is the time. Please fill out the speaker card before you come up here. And I see no comments, so I'm going to keep moving on. But before I do want to make note for the record that Trustee Alexander left during or after closed session, so she is not here with us right now during our open session. Okay, so we will move to the consent agenda, item 8. So I will make a motion. I will consider a motion.
Through the chair, I move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries 4-0 with trustee Alexander absent. I will move on to item 9, which we struck. So we're going to move on to item 10, which is the communications plan.
Okay. So good evening, everyone. As you all know, my name is Cylindra McRae. Very grateful to be up here tonight, and we are going to talk about our communications and engagement update. And as you all may know, there has been significant changes and progress since our last board update around our communications plan back in January of 2022. We have made updates to our team. We've expanded our communications channels, and we continue to refine our campaign strategies as we synthesize key learnings and follow up on communications and engagement activities that stem from that January 2022 board meeting. This year, our communication and engagements plan includes a focus on 2 key buckets: the facilities projects and updates on our progress towards our strategic priorities, specifically priorities 1 through 4 that center the talent initiative, family engagement, and student recruitment. So to achieve these goals, we have implemented regular communications planning meetings, created a content calendar and timeline, and tailored messaging to our audience groups and channels. We are also partnering with the Bay Ed Fund on a coordinated engagement and outreach plan that will strengthen our relationships with our community and inform not only our day-to-day operations, but our graduate profile and the next iteration of our strategic plan. Finally, we are aiming to measure our engagement effectiveness through consumer use metrics and at a basic yet fundamental level, communal knowledge of what it is that's even taking place within our district. Although we are making progress towards our goals in this area, it is important to acknowledge that our investment in communications will likely be directly correlated to our family and community engagement outcomes. So tonight, we would like to give an update on our existing efforts, chronicle our near-term plan, and name our long-term strategic vision around communications and engagement. Sorry. All right. So we have made significant progress on our communications infrastructure. To start, we streamlined all communications responsibilities, including strategy, content creation, design, under one role in-house within the STE division. To be more explicit, we added the communication strategy body of work to a pre-existing role. This allows for more ease in knowledge sharing, cross-district collaboration, and a centralized point of contact who is easily accessible and has an institutional and contextual understanding of district happenings. Next, we have been intentional about attempting to match our communications channels and platforms to the intended audience and message. For example, approximately 80% of our families who responded to the Fall Family Survey stated that they heard about our district through word of mouth and/or personal experience. So one of the corresponding communications strategies that we have employed has been community canvassing, and that has been around our recruitment effort. Another example is creating specific pages on our website that house information and updates on specific initiatives, i.e. facilities and partnerships. And these are but a few examples of our multi-channel approach for communications and engagement. And then finally, we created the systems and infrastructure needed to gather information on the latest news, events, and announcements via a centralized communications tracker. We have created a content calendar to plan out weekly social media content and publications. And we hold monthly huddles to strategize key themes and messages. And we use constant contact to create and post social media content to track engagement metrics. So now I will pass it over to Joy Shen, our strategic projects coordinator, to give us an update on how we have incorporated last year's proposed actions into our recent efforts.
Thank you, Dr. McRae. So today we wanted to revisit the actions that were proposed in the January 2022 communications update to the board. On the left-hand side of this slide, you will see the proposed actions coming out of that plan. And on the right-hand side, we've highlighted a few examples of ways that we have incorporated those actions into our communications and engagement efforts. Our first action was to create social media posts that highlight our people and programs. We have now averaging about 2 to 3 posts per week and focusing these efforts on our people and specific offerings unique to Ravenswood. We're also working with our partners at REF to coordinate more professional photography sessions so we can make sure we capture all of the exciting things happening in our spaces. In addition, we're also working on capturing more video content of students and staff. Specifically, we highlighted some student videos in our staff-wide PD sessions this year, and also are using video as a way to communicate announcements and news to our community. We're also partnering with local news outlets to get coverage in community newspapers as well. You will probably be familiar with some of the coverage in the Almanac regarding our talent initiative and facilities projects. And we've also been a part of different press conferences where we have district leaders speaking on important topics with other members of the community. As Dr. McRae alluded to, another key component of our plan is meeting prospective families and staff where they are. And so we're implementing in-person communications and engagement activities as well, such as community canvassing, info sessions at local preschools, and a partnership with the Bay Ed Fund to do more outreach activities this spring. And finally, we decided to include specific calls to action in our communications efforts. So all of our campaigns have specific action items that audience members can participate in, such as registering their new students or taking our surveys or attending our events. Again, these are just some examples of the work that we have done, but we're excited to continue incorporating previous year's plans in our ongoing work. We also want to make sure we're continuing to learn from the work that we are doing. And the first category here is family engagement. As Dr. McRae mentioned, we did a fall family survey earlier this year to understand more about our parents' needs and preferences. We've learned that there are channels such as text message and Parent Square, which are preferred for receiving announcements. We learned that families hear about Ravenswood through word of mouth and personal experience, and that we have even more opportunity for engagement with families, such as volunteer opportunities or events like our Monday night workshops. We want to continue our focus on meeting our families and community members where they are. Our second category here is around our social media activity. We've seen from our engagement data that posts that feature our students, families, and staff perform a lot better than announcements with other visuals such as flyers. Makes sense that people want to see the faces that they recognize in their social media. We also know that different platforms have different audiences in terms of reach and engagement rates. And finally, we've also seen that video content drives engagement. We want to continue incorporating these learnings in our communications efforts so that they continue to be visual and personal. And finally, we have print communications. Earlier this year, we had billboards and yard signs as an experiment for communications about the district, but we've seen that they may not be the highest impact form of marketing and outreach. We've also used direct mailers for things like our facilities projects or to get people excited about student enrollment. And we've heard anecdotally about the effect of these mailers, but we want to continue exploring how to track the return on investment for print communications.
So our core focus this year is on communications and engagement around our district's strategic plan. Because we had to creatively allocate pre-existing human capital to add this crucial body of work, we had to be intentional on our decision to focus on highlighting high leverage, interconnected bodies of work. So in doing so, we have broken our focus into two key topic areas. Our strategic priorities, and these are the core goals of our strategic plan. And we want to highlight the progress we are making and the actions we are taking in support of these priorities. And then the second area is our facilities projects. These projects are an important part of how we are driving towards our district's goals and involve a lot of community engagement. Our school site improvement projects will help us to offer the best possible instruction and safe and joyful learning environments. And our ground lease and development agreements will help support our talent initiative and staff recruitment and retention. We believe that a focus on these two buckets at this moment creates a cyclical understanding of how our facilities projects are paired with and connected to strategic priorities 1 through 4, and how our strategic priorities are likely to be met in part due to our facilities projects. So, many of us love a powerful and compelling story, and we would be remiss if we didn't attempt to incorporate elements of this timeline into our messaging in some way at some point. For example, East Palo Alto is rich in community cultural wealth, and there are times when it is important to not only remind folks of that, but to also let them know why it's relevant. And so to ensure we bring our families and community members along with the journey with us and do work with and not to, we aim to ensure that our messaging includes components that tell Ravenswood's story, what makes us unique, and how we intend to leverage those two elements to get to our end goal. So with our formula, we believe that the historical context helps to explain how we got to where we are today, while also reflecting on whether we still are where we were yesterday, and if so, why. Providing updates on our processes to date allows constituents to be looped into actions that have been taken and jump in at any point in the juncture. Sharing our next steps is an important way to not only get people involved, but serves as a mechanism for accountability. And finally, a plan without a goal is just a wish. So we want to always keep in mind our end goal and how our work is serving our vision.
We've talked a lot about communications tonight, and sometimes it can seem like it is a one-way directional thing where we are communicating out to our community. But we want to be clear that our communications plan is a two-way street. As part of this effort to engage families in that dialogue, we are partnering with the Bay Ed Fund to run an engagement and outreach campaign this spring. The goal of this campaign is to build trust and reconciliation within the community and to make sure we elevate community voices in our strategic planning process for the future, including the profile of a graduate. We are in the process of finalizing the ultimate actions and activities for this spring, but they will likely include activities such as engaging with our middle schoolers to understand where their goals are, piloting a family fellowship program to help parents get involved in their school communities, convening community organizations and the partners that we work with, and soliciting feedback from our families and students to understand what's working well and what isn't in the district. This list is still in development, as I mentioned, but we're really excited to be including families and community voices in the work that we do. We also know that there's a time and place for different types of communications, and we wanted to highlight the different timelines that some of these activities follow. On a monthly basis, we have some of our more broader district-wide communications, such as our monthly newsletters, our board meetings, and other family events like cafecitos that happen at schools once a month. On a weekly basis, we're looking at all of the events and announcements happening within the district and updating our content calendar so we have an idea of what we're communicating throughout the week. And multiple times a week, we're sharing those news and announcements and having conversations with families through social media and Parent Square. On an as-needed basis, we're also using other channels such as print mail, working with news and media outlets, updating our website, and doing some of the outreach activities that we've mentioned tonight as well. And finally, we know that it's really important to be tracking the success of all the work that we do. We want to continue measuring metrics across both engagement and actions taken. For engagement metrics, we're looking at traditional metrics of communications, such as our reach in terms of number of people who are receiving the messaging and engaging in those communications. And then people who are interacting with our announcements, including comments, reactions, and the like. In terms of action metrics, we think about things like the number of people getting involved, whether that's participating in a survey or attending an event. And we're also thinking about higher level metrics that are strategic priorities for the district overall. These are things like staff recruiting and retention metrics, as well as student recruitment. And for each of our individual communications and engagement activities, we will also identify and track key metrics that are specific to those activities.
And finally, hopefully this presentation has served 2 of 3 goals so far, reminding us of where we were with our communications and engagement work and how we have progressed on what we set out to do. That's the history and the process to date portion of that timeline. And 2, inform the audience of our near-term communications focus and why. That's the next steps portion of that timeline. That leaves one more goal, naming our long-term communication and engagement goal, strategic vision. And simply put, we want to ensure that effective communication and engagement is both the driver and creator of our strategic iterations. Because communications and engagement is a core element of not only our strategic plan, which is the roadmap to how we meet our broad district goals, it is and should be the focus of our day-to-day work. Therefore, it requires a concerted investment into ensuring that it is recognized for its critical role in not only sharing our narrative, but shifting it. We are responsible for ensuring that communications and engagement is at the heart of both the creation and implementation of our entire strategy. More specifically, it requires the role and function to serve that of an analyst, a pitcher, an acquisition specialist, a copywriter, creative designer, internal communicator, external communicator, and convener. These are all of the roles that effective communications personnel should employ. And these things done well move our strategic priorities forward, thus making it a priority. Thus the need for the corresponding human capital allocation, thus the need for the appropriate budgetary prioritization. With these elements, our communication and engagement efforts are positioned to have more focus and more impact. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions from the board?
I'll go since it was one of my main points. I think trustee Polito would be really, former trustee Polito would be very happy to see this because communications and marketing has been something that we have struggled with historically. And to get an update where you ticked off everything that was mentioned and you gave, actual tangible things that have happened since then, it's a great move. And I feel like we're at a really good spot as a district. I received one of the mailers, I think it was for Bellhaven. I was surprised, but it was really well written, straight to the point, and it's delivered to the community's front door. So it's not like we're not going out of our way. We're literally sending you mail at this point. And so I think that we have done a great job at building out a roadmap, historical content. I'm a huge believer of that. Superintendent Sudaria is kind of looking at me because she knows how much I really wanted to do something like that. So I commend you both for the great work. I think we're in a great spot, and I think that we have a clear vision of where we want to continue to go. And I think we're in a great spot as Ravenswood. Thank you. Thanks for the presentation too. It's good.
Through the chair, I'm just gonna say thank you. Everyone always says all this stuff, so I just want to keep it short and sweet and just say thank you, because I just feel awkward not saying anything, but I want you to always know that the gratitude is there. I realize it's late as well, so thank you. This is beautiful. Any comments? So thank you very much for the presentation, and I agree with everything Trustee Latu said. There was one thing that you said you wanted to measure the impact of the mailers, right? And scanning the QR codes and stuff. I will say my neighbor, who is an elderly resident who will never scan a QR code, she tells me every single time she gets something from Ravenswood, she has it on her fridge. Like she puts it on her fridge and she does not have kids other than my kids that are in the district, right? So I think that that's also something for us to keep in mind. Like there is impact happening that might not be measurable. So just keep that in mind. Like people are reading it. And telling us, oh, did you get this? I got this. So I want to say that. And then the other thing I will say is, I think one of the other things, I know that we're starting the listening campaign like on the same timeline as we've been talking about enrollment and recruiting and going to the preschools. I also wonder if there's ways that we can partner with each of the schools to think about like, what is your communication plan to invite people into the space? I saw on social media of Ravenswood that the 5th graders got to go to the middle school, and that was really exciting. And I, like you said, I got to watch the videos, got to see the pictures, and I was like, oh, wow, this is amazing. This is great. And my question would be like, are there opportunities like that for the greater community, maybe not just Ravenswood 5th graders, to come and enter that space and see the vision and what's happening and the stuff that's being changed within the facilities? Because just like you said, right, the facilities connect to our strategic update. So those are just a few of my ideas that I'm throwing out there, and but also overall, like, we wouldn't be able to be at the point to give these ideas without the work that you guys have already done. So thank you very much. I will say I noticed an extreme difference in just even the engagement of myself on the Ravenswood social media channels in the last few months since January. So thank you very much, Dr. McCray and Ms. Shen. That was great. Thank you.
Thank
We will move on to the next item, which is the superintendent's report.
All right, I have a 20-minute report. Just kidding. They didn't hear that. No, but through the chair, I did want to reiterate too what you just shared was this week, as of Wednesday, actually, the Principal Kemp mentioned that Wednesday is the favorite day for most of the middle schools because there is a lot of engagement and connection with adults and programs that are really appealing to the students. And so our fifth graders got to experience what a Wednesday looks like at the middle school. With support of our maintenance team and our teaching and learning team, and of course, the Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School team. We hosted all of the fifth graders, transported them from their elementary schools to the middle school. They got to experience an assembly, got to see the mascot, as well as experience the classes and the teachers there. And they seemed really excited. And of course, if you go on our social media, you can see some of the teachers in action showcasing how much they love middle school and their future middle school students. Also, speaking of middle school, our seventh graders right now in the middle of winter, but are having such a great time in Yosemite. We partnered with Nature Bridge, and all of our seventh graders had the opportunity to go to Yosemite, to be able to bond with each other and nature. And they return tomorrow at the end of the day. And then tomorrow is the 100th day of school in Ravenswood. And if you happen to have set a New Year's resolution, you know how hard it is to keep a commitment. And so I commend all of our staff for 100 days being able to serve our students and keep students at the center. And it is hard. It's hard to stay committed and put your personal situations aside to be present for kids. And so congratulations to the students on also attending school for 100 days.
Through the chair, I feel like we might have budget for donuts for our teachers. No? Is that plausible?
Well, you know,
I feel remiss not to take this opportunity. It's 100 days.
100 days. Yes. We do have a coffee cart next week, but we could probably get direction from the board to do some more tomorrow, something special tomorrow. But yes, 100 days is something to celebrate.
With I think
We did the
should.
pizza the last time it was recommended by the board for our students. who were
I
here.
think we should if it's if we're able to.
I think Trustee Latu is trying to be the fan favorite by
Feeding everybody.
suggesting all of the food for every single stakeholder.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Okay, any other questions or comments? Sounds like donuts. Tomorrow. All right, I'll be there. And we're going to move on to item number 12, board reports and communication. I can start. I know that there are multiple events happening throughout the weekend, throughout the community. I know there is a Black History Month event happening in the Bellhaven community on Saturday. I want to say around 1:30, but I don't know exact details. So look out for that. I also, yeah, I think that that's the one event that I know about.
To the chair, I just want to also highlight for the community that we have a new city manager, Melvin Gaines. I believe, congratulations as a board member, and we look forward to working with you as a district.
And we also know that Mr. Gaines is a longtime resident of East Palo Alto. So that is also exciting to have someone lifetime generational, as Vice President Nunez is informing me. So that belongs to the history of Ravenswood. And so that is exciting to have someone with that history as well, working with us and for us. All right. If there are no other board reports, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next item, which is Number 13, and then we don't need that, so we're going to move on to item number 14, which is the next regular board meeting is going to be held on February 23rd at 6:30 p.m. And the Bellhaven team will present before closed session. The open session is expected to resume at 7:15, but again, depending on the items. Thank you, and we are adjourned, and we will see you. We will adjourn at 9:52 p.m. and we will see you on the 23rd.